Welcome to the Godisa Botswana podcast, where we do a deep dive into Botswana's investment and trade landscape through the BITC lens. Today, we are at the big table because we have the big guy. We have the BITC CEO who's going to tell us the BITC story. I don't think I could put it any other way. The broadness, the depth of BITC, no one knows it better than him. So I would like to welcome Mr. Olivile to the table. Good evening, Kels.
Good evening, Bonalo. Thank you for hosting me.
Thank you. I have to admit, I know out there you are Olivile, but can I be forgiven to just call you Kels?
Call me Kels. Everybody calls me Kels.
Everybody calls you Kels.
No high-end formalities.
No, definitely.
Yes.
A few weeks ago, we saw a very lovely video of you when you were in the US and you were unpacking the opportunities and the investments and the incentives that are available in Botswana. And that is really speaking to the BITC mandate. But from your perspective, can you just tell us what the BITC mandate is, the BITC story, and why it exists as an entity that is helping Botswana's economy?
Thank you, Bonalo, for the question. I think the viewers might want to know that in this month of April,
yes,
BITC is actually turning 13 years of existence.
Yes.
You will know that we started operating in the month of April 2012.
Yes.
After a merger of two previously existing institutions, BEDIA, AFCA.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm very happy to be hosted in this podcast at a time where there is significant progress that we can show. But going to your question of what is the mandate, we are basically an institution established by an Act of Parliament, the Botswana Investment and Trade Center Act of 2011, to be the lead in terms of attracting investment to come and locate and take up opportunities in Botswana.
Mm-hmm.
But when we talk about investment, I always emphasize that people should not mistake us for only being focused on foreign investors coming.
Yes.
We do assist a lot of locally or domestic investment,
Yes.
as we will demonstrate as we go.
Yeah.
So any Botswana who has a compelling opportunity that they believe they need our facilitation to take up, we are open to assist them. The second area of our mandate is what we call export development and promotion. Because the Botswana market in terms of population size is quite small and limited, we cannot attract large-scale credible investors only looking at the domestic market.
Yeah.
That's why everything about Botswana is export orientation. Therefore, we have a fully fledged capacity within BITC that helps, number one, companies that want to elevate to export readiness, to be able to seamlessly do that. And then number two, to assist them to identify those export opportunities in identified markets under the bilateral, multilateral trade agreements, and then also assist them to lend their products and, boost our export earnings. The third area of our mandate is we are custodians of Brand Botswana. So Brand Botswana is where we are really trying to boost global awareness about Botswana.
Yeah.
We want to associate with the right and well-aligned friends and stakeholders. And also they have to know us for the right things that we stand for.
Yeah.
So Brand Botswana is really to say, how do we, boost our image and create global awareness, and also rally our Botswana for somebody who can be visiting the country to get to experience and know us for the right things. So those are the campaigns that we are running under Brand Botswana. But we do have other portfolios that we run, which are equally important. For example, we have in-depth research capacity. We call it market intelligence, because when you go around, identify markets, finding and originating investors, you have to be very selective and targeted. And the only way you can identify is through informed research. So we have robust intelligence tools that can tell us all the dynamics and investor indications all over the world, so that when we engage, we have already targeted in terms of which company, who is the decision maker in there, and how do we engage them at which office and all sorts. So for all this research, I believe our stakeholder base can utilize BITC to have access and equally be informed, because the mandate of originating investors cannot not only sit with BITC.
True.
We have to be multiplied by the public service out there, the embassy network, the groupings of stakeholders, but we can empower them with information. We have another mandate area which is equally important, which is called the Botswana International Financial Services Center. This is again, in simple terms, export of services. Because we've realized that Botswana possesses all the desirable attributes that one can want to associate with our stability, our relative peace and security, prudent management of our resources, good economic management. So this is exemplary by any standards, especially when we talk about a country in Africa. So Botswana then says, let me extend these desirable attributes to even help other countries to be able to mobilize international capital. And how do we do that? We've set a framework called the AFCA that is highly incentivized for companies that are coming into Africa from across the oceans to basically do business there, but create a central operating structure in Botswana to enable such. And how do we do that? No exchange controls. Bring your money into Botswana so that you can fund those operations from here and be able to bring back dividends and interest. Develop your systems in Botswana to be able to support those companies wherever they're operating intra-group so that then royalties can flow back. Send expertise that we have in abundance to go and support and bring skills and, resolve active problems so that in the end, management fees can flow back. And that is an active, framework that actually houses a good number of regional holding structures that are in Botswana because we are a country that is very good to live in. Then lastly, in mandate, we have Global Expo Botswana. Yes, which this year will actually be hosted from, I think, the 8th to the 11th of October. Yes. We are inviting all stakeholders to come and partake. But Global Expo Botswana is interesting, was bestowed on us by Cabinet back then because they needed a platform where we could facilitate interaction between local producers and international buyers, so that conversations could take place, deals can be signed, and in the end, we are boosting market access for Botswana goods. And alongside, we always run our renowned conference where we are discussing issues of national and regional interest, and advocacy statements can then be lended for good reform.
BITC is huge.
I always tell people that it's akin to 5 mandates in one.
Definitely.
Because when you go to other countries, all the mandates I've articulated would be existing as a separate institution, but we are running it consolidated and they are complementary. So that's what we are carrying.
So it's like it's a mixing pot that eventually comes together to make a nice dish.
Exactly. No better way to put it than that.
I think you had highlighted initially about investment promotion. That's one of the key things that we're known for. But how does BITC do investment promotion? How does it actually work? Looking at the fact that it's seen as one of those key areas for economic transformation. We've got economic diversification as one of those key national initiatives that have to take place. So in this instance, what is BITC doing under the investment area to try and broaden that scope to impact investment, economic diversification and such?
Right. It's quite broad and diverse, the manner that we originate investors. And as I said previously, it cannot be the preserve of BITC alone. This is an effort that every Botswana has to carry to speak good about the country wherever they go so that people can be interested and attracted to associate with the country. But the way that we conduct investment promotion is firstly to conduct in-depth research, to target. We have to be focused, selective, and targeted.
Intelligence.
Where are the investors of the right scale and sophistication that we want, so that when we go out, we are really pointed as to who we need. And then the way that we would classify markets, we don't just place every country at the same level of opportunity in terms of investment origination. We have an approach where we will categorize them in terms of the level of market cultivation that would have already been done. Then we will have tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Tier 1 being countries where we believe there is massive opportunity because a lot of groundwork and relationship with Botswana has been done in the past.
Yes.
Tier 2 is there, but maybe at a slower positioning in terms of level of awareness about Botswana.
Yes.
And then tier 3 will be those where we really have to cultivate awareness more than opportunities.
Yes.
So for tier 1, we develop what we call targeted value sector value propositions.
Okay.
Sector value propositions is where I would say broadly in manufacturing. Here are the opportunities that realistically exist in Botswana. But because I'm talking about company A that is in a particular country, I would have studied what are its interests, and then I will craft a proposition that clearly fits the particular interest of that company at that particular time. And then I will knock on their boardroom and be given an opportunity to present. Because you are pretty much preaching to people who already know the country, tier 1. And therefore it's just to show them where they can deploy. But when you come down the scale now towards tier 3, tier 4, that is where we are now putting the likes of Brand Botswana ahead to say, because they don't know us that much, because of limited previous interactions. Let us now deploy the generic advertising so that you are creating that curiosity for somebody to inquire, which country is this? Is there really a country that upholds these standards in Africa? And then once they are convinced, that's when discussions can then progress to that value proposition. But the manner that we also promote is that we work through the network of Botswana embassies around the world. I think you know that the government of Botswana is very clear on embassies shifting to economic diplomacy. I know that they are actively deploying a strategy in that regard. So economic diplomacy basically says they have to originate investment. They have to cultivate market access for our goods, and we are working hand in hand with them. Most of the investors that will come would have been originated by an ambassador somewhere. And I can stand here to encourage them to keep on doing more because we are seeing very positive signs. But we also have many strategic partners, either being embassies of other countries located in Botswana. We work with them. Either being international chambers of commerce that have active membership that are seeking opportunities around the world. We work with them. We have MOUs with almost every similar mandate institution in every regional country surrounding us. We're working in collaboration with Namibia, with Zimbabwe, with Zambia, with Mozambique, so that when an investor that originates from there expresses a desire to invest in Botswana, then they are immediately proactive to refer this investor to BITC so that we handhold them, we give them all the comforts, and we show them the opportunities and how to deploy. So that's in a nutshell how we promote. We've also seen the need to place our own officials in some of the embassies around the world to help these ambassadors originate. That is why we have an office in Johannesburg, in Delhi, India, in London, and we are in talks to see how we can continue to expand this so that somebody experienced and knowledgeable can handhold the ambassador every day to make sure that positive investment is originated.
And then what about from a domestic investment perspective? How does BITC drive that one?
Well, in terms of domestic investment, we are varied. Firstly, we have what is called an investor onboarding exercise, so that, companies that are out there trying to make an effort, but they don't know much about BITC and its value add, are educated to then come on board and be assisted. The other way that we also generate domestic investment is that obviously the FDIs that we would have attracted are generating a lot of returns locally. You want those profits to be retained within the country. Remember that we don't have exchange controls. People always debate, is it a good thing or a bad thing? I always say it's a good thing in the manner that it exposes us to operate across borders in the world. But it is our duty and responsibility to create and showcase local opportunities that will retain this money as investors expand their businesses. Yeah. But let us also remember that there's no shortage of liquidity, at least in the private sector in Botswana. Yeah. So as we create these opportunities, the pension funds that have so much liquidity and all their operating structures can then be pointed to where they can basically stimulate, so that it's not always government injecting money into the system. So that is why, as BITC, in our current strategy period, we've actually facilitated a complete strategic shift. People will see us moving from this gathering people in conference rooms and open broadcasting. Look, it will still be done, but to a lesser extent. Yes. We are now saying we want to develop compelling projects in partnership with interested private individuals that we can then take to the market and promote, knowing that all the support base is mobilized, all the enabling factors for that investment opportunity or project to take off have been provided. And therefore, we will be promoting projects as opposed to just open opportunities.
So just off the top of your mind, can you think of any successful investment that BITC has been able to facilitate and, you've seen its impact in the economy over time?
Oh, there are plenty. I think to mention one.
Okay, I'll give you a chance to mention two then.
Let's talk about the health sector.
Yes.
People don't know that we played a leading facilitating role in lending Sidile Private Hospital.
Oh.
Yes.
Okay. That's news to me.
We are also the ones that lended the Francistown Academic Hospital as you enter Francistown.
That one I
And
know.
because we work with multiple stakeholders, a stakeholder like BDC would be referred this investment so that they can come and enable with capital injection. Okay. But in the end, all the facilitation would have been done by BITC.
Yes.
We speak about the citrus farm in Silibe Pikwe, which has planted almost 1 million, citrus trees.
Yes.
And the nice thing about this investment is that it's not just a farm that you view in isolation. It's creating a completely new industry for export markets from Botswana.
Yes.
Because we've never had, all the permits and licenses to export citrus to some of the sophisticated markets we can talk about. But through the establishment of this farm, we've now been able to, working with our stakeholders in agriculture, open market access to the EU.
Okay.
That's a huge market.
Yes.
Open market access to Canada. Still talking at advanced stages with a market like the US, even though the tariff situation might come in to offend things.
Yeah.
We've exported to the UAE and many other markets are lined up that we are opening. So imagine just how much one investment has really stimulated the establishment of a whole new industry that will get to export. We talk about the ignition wiring harnesses. There's a company in Lobatse. It used to be called Pasdec. Now it's called Delta Automotive.
Delta Automotive.
Yes, I remember when they were originally coming, they were looking at a number of countries. And they said, Botswana, what are you putting on the table for us to consider to locate here?
Yeah.
We sat with two of our officials here, put up a compelling value proposition for this company to actually choose and consider Botswana.
Yes.
And indeed, in the end, they landed in Lobatse. Yes, they are still there adding value.
Yeah.
We've facilitated the growth of Krumbek and Schubert when they needed a new factory at the speed of lightning.
Yes.
We worked with our partner BDC to make sure that that factory is availed. BITC facilitated land. BDC got in the space to construct quickly in less than 6 months, and the expansion was realized. So I can go on and on and on about the list, but these are some of the things that I know a Botswana out there may not relate with, but we are adding value.
Yeah, and when you mentioned Krumbek and Schubert, I think I was hoping you'd expand what they do, because a lot of people don't realize that a number of the Mercedes-Benzes they drive, the harnesses are made here.
Absolutely.
Yes, I think
we supply more than 50% of the ignition wiring harnesses. That is the thin wiring in your Mercedes C-Class, most of the Nissan models that are assembled in South Africa, Renault, Volkswagen.
There we go.
Which is the other model, BMW. Yes, that's what we do right here from Botswana.
Right. I wanted to unpack that because I think, sometimes we don't make that connection when we're talking about what bringing investment to Botswana is about and that direct impact and how some of these things can impact us. But speaking about, bringing in companies and, ease of doing business and also just all those barriers that can affect investment, we're just talking earlier about how the markets are being affected by America's decision to impose tariffs. And one of those areas is mining. So now, us as a country, we've also been actively trying to diversify. How is BITC supporting this shift of economic diversification, looking at moving away from heavy reliance on minerals?
If you look at the structure of exports in Botswana, you will see that 87% is predominantly composed of mining exports.
Yes.
So we still have a long way to diversify.
Yeah.
But the nice thing is that the remaining percentage of what we will call non-mining exports, BITC facilitates 76%.
Shall we continue? Which one about the non-mining exports? Yes.
Yes, as I was saying, if you look at the composition of exports from Botswana, 87% of what we export is comprised of mineral exports.
Yes.
And I was saying, look, we still have a long way to diversify because that is dominance by mining, But when you look at the remaining percentage of what we would call non-mining exports, 76%. Of non-mining exports as currently registered are those that are facilitated by BITC. So I think while we have a long way to go, BITC is putting all efforts around the globe to make sure that we can first industrialize through sustainable investments that we can attract, and then handhold these companies to find active sustainable markets, where we can slowly diversify. But as you might have seen some analysts saying, there is nothing that will replace diamonds. I still hold the view that if we can employ the right strategies and actually support the government in the new numbers and targets that they've pronounced, cultivate an environment that can propel us to achieve those numbers, ultimately we will be talking of something significant.
Oh, okay. And then what about locally as Botswana? How can we facilitate them to play the role in this economic diversification drive? I'm just thinking to myself, are there any projects that we can do? What role can Botswana play, and how can we facilitate them?
In my years of experience with BITC, I see a lot of effort that Botswana are making out there. But sometimes where I think we are lacking is the manner in which we are organized to be able to bring in a bit of scale and make some impact. But at BITC, for example, we have programs that are actively, supporting Botswana. Talk about the #PushaBW program, where it's a program where we're saying, as consumers in Botswana, let us be patriotic to consume our own. Give them all the feedback so that all the lessons and errors they can make are basically corrected, and they will boost and activate to the right export quality. So under this program, for example, we've already listed a good number of products in local retail stores. And if anybody is making an effort and seeking market access through our retail chains, we are here to help them, through even some of the supplier development programs to elevate to the right level of quality that can then be carried in a particular store. We've gone on with programs to even brand inside some of the stores for a consumer entering to see where local produce is based. Beyond just the retail chains, you will be aware that we've been engaging some of the large buyers in the country to say, how do we support the local growth program? We've gone to the mines and evaluated openly with them some of the things that they are currently importing. And then we will take them around and show them where some efforts are being made in Botswana that they can partner and elevate to the right quality and then supply the mines. So a lot of substitution has been recorded in that regard. We've been in the tourism sector where we found that sometimes even things like uniform were being imported and in-room cosmetics were being imported. And when you engage them, they will say, we didn't even know that we have some of these. We will take them through our hashtag #PushaBW program to show them where these things are done. And I can speak about hotels that have substituted some of these things that they are buying or supplying, so that we can then boost that hope. So what I think really has to be done for all the effort that Botswana are doing, agriculture sector, tourism sector, is to better organize and be facilitated to basically win as a team.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because as individuals, the projects tend to come across as small.
Yes.
But when they come together, it becomes, when you mentioned when you mentioned the hotels, I remember I used to see even cultural artifacts that would come from neighboring countries. But when you engage, they will say, oh, but we didn't know where we could find the local supplies for the genuine local cultural artifacts as well.
Yes.
And, since we're talking about PushaBW that is driven from the Brand Botswana unit, now in terms of from a global perspective, you had touched on it earlier about how is BITC helping to position Botswana internationally to also help with the investment drive, export drive as well. How is Brand Botswana facilitating in that regard?
Yeah. Obviously, I think we've done very well over the years in terms of creating that global awareness.
Yes.
We are very active in the international space, and sometimes people question excessive travel as they perceive it. It is good that we are there amongst the global multitudes so that we are known for who we are and opportunities can be driven back to our country.
Yes.
If we just stay honed at home and not engaging, the world will be moving on and forget about us. So we have to be a key player for all the progress that we've built over the years in global conversations to make sure that we are relevant. But you were asking, how is Brand Botswana enabling? As I said, the broad messaging that we drive through Brand Botswana. For example, we used to have a program, I know it was terminated by COVID, but we should be reinstating it, the Active Global Citizens Campaign, where we were going to all Botswana in the diaspora, organizing them into a workshop where they air their views in terms of the value that they can bring back to the country from wherever they are operating. I know countries right now that have a significant portion of their economic contribution coming from the diaspora in terms of remittances. And if we can effectively harness ours, I believe it can really take us far.
Yeah.
But the one thing, as we are talking about empowerment of Botswana, that I wanted to highlight is our one-stop business services center.
Yeah.
Because oftentimes people would think that, as I said, we are only for foreigners, but we are here with a lot of seconded capacity from the various facilitating ministries of government.
Yes.
We have the immigration people with us, reporting to us every day to make sure that investors are served very well in terms of timely permits and good turnaround times. We have labor people, we have lands people. So we have more like a concentration of the government system here with us.
Yes.
You can even process these payments here because they've extended their systems to us so that as an investor, you are really served with full convenience. So Botswana should not be worried. I sometimes hear sentiments that say, but you have a qualification criteria and therefore you say somebody should be invested above $1 million. Of course, the normal practice of every investment promotion entity is to have that criteria. But we never turn anybody back. Anybody who comes here, even if it is something for which we can't assist, we will determine in our minds where it will be best assisted, and we will formally refer and usher you in so that one of the stakeholders will still be able to assist. But we are open. Botswana should come through and put these services to use. And
the services you're talking about is BOSC. What we famously call BOSC, which is Botswana One-Stop Service Center.
Yes.
And recently, actually, I don't know if you want to expand a little bit on this, that we now issue visas.
Yes.
Yes. I would like for you to just explain the criteria for that, because it's not exactly visas for everybody.
Right.
Yeah. So what does that entail?
Yes, recently, just around the close of last year, government was quite generous in extending us permission to issue visas in-house.
Yes.
So as we coexist with senior officials from immigration, we can process these visas on a need basis.
Yes.
So investors that are seeking to facilitate visas, we are here. But obviously, there is a broad-based assessment of different countries.
Yeah.
There will be a few countries which I won't name on this podcast that will be exceptions.
Yes.
But we still facilitate them, only that we are not issuing those ones in-house.
Yes.
They are going into the mainstream systems of government.
Yes.
But predominantly, it's been a significant improvement in that BITC is now empowered to issue visas in-house.
No, definitely. And I just want to broaden our conversation to, I don't know what the AFCFTA, how do we, because of our export promotion, how do we facilitate that particular one? Are we playing in that space of the AFCFTA?
Yes. Remember that AFCFTA is about facilitating preferential market access between African countries that are a member of the common area.
Yes.
So BITC, being the promoter and facilitator of exports, will basically be facilitating these goods to lend through those preferential arrangements and ease of border processes and market access by the different countries. Therefore, we are a key voice in joining other parties like, for example, the Botswana Trade Commission, the Chief Trade Negotiation Office in the Ministry of Trade and Entrepreneurship, to make sure that all goods in Botswana that are poised to export into AFCFTA endorsed lines can basically effectively lend without a hassle and also deal with the non-tariff barriers between the countries. But we do this as a collective with relevant stakeholders in the broader government system.
Earlier on you said this is our 13th year. This month is our birthday.
Yes.
So from where you sit, what are some of BITC's biggest milestones in the recent years that you feel really stand out for you?
Oh, we've impacted in many ways.
Yes.
Firstly, throughout the journey that we have come, I think, the resonation with the various stakeholders in Botswana to appreciate the importance of investment has really elevated. Right now, we're not struggling that much in terms of getting into any ministry and, being given that due regard, because they know that we are bringing something that is a livelihood for the economy of Botswana. I think we have inculcated that appreciation that, for a country to industrialize, it has to be through investment. And therefore, I see all ministries really coming up to appreciate the importance of investment for all the benefits of job creation, export earnings, and all that. And the partnership is really great. One of the things that we have also led and championed is to lift the standard of hosting global events in Botswana. We are pursuing the MICE strategy, and we can exemplify with some of the leading events like the US-Africa Summit, which we are actually about to mobilize our local investors to go participate in Angola this year. It will be held in Angola. But I think we have set an example to the extent that even the Americans, when we hosted the American leg in Dallas, they said Botswana's event was so far the best.
Milestone tick.
Exactly. And talk about the others like the Europe-Botswana Business Forum. Talk about the Kusi Festival of Ideas. We were there. We were deeply immersed to lift the standard. And right now, I think we are the best benchmark in terms of how we can create an impression and resonance through these events that come to Botswana.
Definitely. She see me preening right now. And looking forward, I mean, we've just reflected, but looking forward with regards to BITC, what key projects or initiatives should we expect from BITC?
We are seeing very exciting things loading lately. I think that, confirms the fact that, Botswana is now out there. We are known, and the confidence levels in terms of the stability that we have demonstrated with the transition in government and many other factors have really elevated global confidence. We've seen, for example, a heightened engagement on people trying to establish smart cities in Botswana. So far, we have 2 projects that are on the pipeline. And this is a demonstration that maybe the world or the citizens of the world have grown a bit tired with, the standard or the same old things, the planning of cities, the lifestyle amenities that it brings them. People are trying to develop very new, fresh, forward-looking, innovative things. And for two companies to have identified Botswana as a place where they can do these massive projects is really humbling. And the linkages that these kind of projects will establish with the productive economy will really be phenomenal. We're seeing a lot of interest, for example, in the agriculture sector.
Yes.
I must admit that sometimes our challenge and limitation is water. It's a very scarce resource in Botswana that we have to allocate very carefully. But, large-scale farmers that are really trying to bring some of their capacity here. We are not short of those. In the energy sector, I think the new government has pronounced their desire to transition to renewable and even mentioned the 8,000 megawatts that we should aim for production in Botswana. We are not short of suitors. Every day people are coming with projects of different types and nature. But really that shows the excitement that the world has about Botswana. We will be monitoring, for example, the tourist arrival numbers, because that also tends to be an indicator of how people feel safe and mobilized to come and visit. But maybe it's too early to say. I think things are looking good.
Things are looking good. I'm actually quite excited now.
Yeah.
Yes. And just as a final message to businesses, future potential investors, who are looking to engage with BITC, what would you like to say to them?
Well, firstly, I will start with those that are already working with us and thank them quite profoundly for the partnership that we've always demonstrated. It cannot be BITC alone. We win as a team. And I think Team Botswana is really finding its rhythm to be able to take on the challenges and attract investment.
Yes.
But for anybody who is still exploring, I want to refer them and say BITC is your landing point if you want to know everything about Botswana.
Yes.
So that once we convince you, I tell you, you will be glued on. Nobody comes to Botswana and lives for good. That I can assure.
I'm going to steal that line. I'm definitely stealing that line. Kels, thank you so much. One wouldn't believe I'm an employee of BITC. I learned a lot just from sitting with you today. I think I'll start spending a bit more time in your office. I'll learn more.
Please.
But for today, thank you very much. I think we'll have you back to unpack more areas. I feel that I didn't get as much out of you as I wish I could have.
Yes.
So I'm going to bring you back.
I'll be very happy to come as many times as you invite. But thank you so much for hosting me. Thank you.
Thank you. That was the BITC CEO, Mr. Kelutisi Olibile, aka Kels. And if you want to know more about what we've been talking about, you want to engage further with BITC, first like and subscribe and follow our YouTube page. And you can follow all other BITC handles on Facebook, we're Botswana Investment and Trade Center. On Instagram, it's Go Botswana 1. And on X, formerly Twitter, it's Go_Botswana. Make sure you follow. And if you want to engage directly with BITC, also feel free to contact the head office on 363-3300. Thank you very much, and we shall meet again.